OSARO is an automation company. We deploy robots into warehouses to automate piece picking, palletizing, depalletizing, a wide range of activities. And we're a software company, so we do that all in software. We partner with hardware companies like Fanuc, NVIDIA, Intel, for the robot, the compute, and the camera, and we bring all that together. So our software is a model zoo that monitors all this equipment at the edge in our customer's warehouse and keeps it running 24/7. The original problem we set out to solve was operationalizing and deploying machine learning to do automation. So that means going from simple models in academic settings to real-world production, 24/7 operation, actually adding value. And we've achieved that goal. We're still scaling up, but a lot of the work was around finding the right customers and the right hardware partners, but also adapting all these algorithms into the market in a way that's production quality and reliable. It's a hard thing to do. Our guiding light is always our customer and making things work better for them. So we don't do any research if we don't think it's going to actually get deployed or improve performance in some way. But having said that, we're constantly having to look down the pipe at what's coming. Because there are real model innovations. And generally for our customers, what that looks like is it enables more robust behavior, so varying lighting conditions or more complicated objects, or we just move faster and more accurately. And we're always working at that. I think there's a couple reasons. One of them is very practical. We're going in and augmenting humans and hopefully freeing them up to do other things. And what we saw as we went into the market is that oftentimes customers were sort of ready to step in, and you really don't want them to. You want to actually take that burden off of them. And so monitoring the system constantly and being ready to service it or upgrade or whatever it is they need was really important. I think that was the primary driver. There's some deployments we've done where we're actually renting our own hardware. So one of our models is we have, for smaller customers, we'll go in and actually deploy our own robots. And so there our incentives are completely aligned. We want the robot running all the time too. So that's part of hypercare. And just in general, although we're an automation company and a machine learning company, there's always a limit to what you can automate, and you need a person sort of standing there for what's not possible. Even if the robots work perfectly, at some point someone needs to pick up the phone and talk to a person. And so customer care and hypercare, we wanted to build in early as a cultural exercise too, because we're very focused on working with machines and algorithms, and you need a little bit of the human touch too. So we try to make that important. That's a great question. Probably the first thing that comes to mind is one of our earliest customers was an eyeglass distributor, direct to consumer. So they run their own fulfillment, do their own advertising. Actually started as sort of a small business, completely owned by one person. So they care a lot about the end-to-end experience. And two things happened that were interesting. One is pretty quickly in our deployment, what they realized was our robots were making 1/10 the number of errors as a person. So that would be something like a barcode is missing from a prescription eyeglasses. And that's the kind of thing that customers care a lot about. You get the wrong glasses, you can't see, right? And so that was kind of an early indication that, not only can we perform on par, we can actually exceed human performance. And then that same customer, about 6 months into our deployment, peak season came. And they weren't able to hire the workers that they thought they'd be able to get in their Ohio facility. So they were actually able to shift volume out to our robots in California, which is something they hadn't anticipated doing. We were in their smaller facility, their bigger one, but they couldn't find the customers for the bigger one. So we were sort of there and ready for them. And that was a big proof point for us and for the customer as well, when they saw you could really lean on the solution. It wasn't just a toy. It's actually something that's there to take like core burden off their people. So that was very validating for us. They're all exciting for us. We've done a little bit of all of them. We've primarily focused on e-commerce because it challenged us with both the diversity of SKUs, so hundreds of thousands, or in some cases millions of items, and the speed with which you need to fulfill. We've had to basically achieve superhuman performance where we can outperform those pick workers, which we've done. Pharmaceutical has sort of different requirements, a lot more around chain of custody and being very careful with items, which again, beauty of a robot is you get that automatically. We can go back and audit every single step of a process. And food has its own challenges. It's the biggest market, but We primarily handle dry goods right now, so pallets or box goods or maybe canned goods. Fresh food is a big challenge. It's a big market. No one's really doing it right now, so I think that's off in the future with a lot of work to do around end effectors and hardware primarily. That's a great question. It's a combination of model architectures that are designed to be scalable. We have our own foundational model. It's actually what's running behind me. So that's built off of NVIDIA's group model, semantic control. It's basically controlled by text. And it's got a lot of implicit knowledge from synthetic data, real world data from all over the world. So it knows about a lot of different things. There's trade-offs though, because while it's general, it's not really efficient. And that's a trade-off that you often see. So our infrastructure allows us, when we deploy these general models into a customer, to actually continue to collect data and fine tune it. So we can handle a huge range of SKUs, but we can also optimize over time. One last thing is you don't have too long to optimize. It basically, a sort of standard KPI would be you're 99% right off the bat and you improve to 99.9%. Because one way of thinking about the limiting factor for robotic deployments is not necessarily the rate, but the number of errors that you have. And so as you move faster and faster, if you have a constant error rate, you actually generate more errors. And so you need to move not just faster, but be more accurate. And that's what all the infrastructure is built to do. Once we deploy, we constantly are recording everything, and the models are constantly fine-tuning to get better and better, no matter what you're doing. So even if you shift your product distribution day to day or week to week, it's automatically learning. So yeah, we take an all of the above approach here. So we have models that can do direct control of a robot, pixels to actions. Some of them also are conditioned on text, again, like the model behind me, the VLA that we're running. But all of these deep learning models are basically probabilistic computers. The reason they're so powerful is that they're flexible, but that's also their downfall. So deep reinforcement learning comes into play essentially to fine-tune models. So once you take a model that's general and flexible and you put it in a specific domain, you want to give it feedback and improve it. So when I say fine-tuning, that's sort of what deep reinforcement learning is for. You also asked about motion planning. Motion planning is very useful, and we use it in almost all of our deployments. It's a different way of planning, and it works in conjunction with these models, meaning we use the flexible perception models to see where things are and to get an idea where we want to go. But then if we want to do it very efficiently and very accurately and very quickly, the robot essentially closes its eyes and uses its knowledge of the world to make a very efficient plan and move very fast. You can do both modes. You can use a neural network to control the robot constantly, but generally speaking, it's slower and you get less guarantees. So same thing is true with like a Waymo. They're not using a neural network to do every single thing, every single step. They're using those models as perception modules, and they're wrapped by a system that's a lot more deterministic so that you can get things like safety guarantees. So safety is very important, right? We're deploying these robots around people, and you want to know what it's going to do, when it's going to do it. That's where motion planning comes into play, and we use them both. That's a great question. Robots make it a little bit easier because at the end of the day, it has to run on a robot. If it's not going to run on a robot, there's really no reason for us to be doing it, and that's a really good forcing function. But once we move beyond that, we generally just ask a simple question, which is how can it make things better? Sometimes the answer is we're not sure, but it might make us more data efficient in the future. You might not see any difference on the robot, but we may be able to deploy faster. And so the answer to the question, how will it make things better, can be pretty broad. It could be, oh, we're more efficient in data, we deploy faster, or it could also mean the robot itself is more efficient and it moves faster. So any of those are perfectly valid answers, and over the years we've had efforts at all of them, and we're always kind of rotating. I'd say 5 years, we want to have thousands of robots, maybe. Within 5 years, we can be to 10,000 robots. So it's just a fleet of robots out there working in warehouses, hopefully 24/7, making jobs easier. That's most of our vision. That's one of our KPIs. It's operations. So we have a little over 100 robots in production now, done about 27 million operations. Those are two KPIs. So we think that'll be in the thousands, and we'll be doing, by that point, probably billions of operations, which will be very interesting.